screen.
Well, you never tell me these things. Now I can talk about chat.
Yeah, Lightning's been saying stuff. You got to pay attention to Lightning. He's the sign of.
I didn't know we were in top screen, so I haven't even looked at the chat yet.
Hi, everybody.
Pay attention to Lightning when the chat's not open. Brilliant idea.
Hi, everybody. Discussing Tabletop. It's sometime in January. It's the 9th, I think, 2021. Yay. That's the date. That's the time. That's the thing that's going on. It's the existence.
You're the bane of my existence.
I am. That is the accuracy of the universe. So yeah, we got some things to talk about. We got an interesting selection of topics for today. How are you doing, Joe? You doing good? Doing bad? Doing medium?
Explode my brain.
You're welcome. I'm doing pretty good too. It was a pretty lackluster week when it came to role playing, but we got some things done and got some things in. But we'll talk about that later on.
Saying goodbye to them.
Yeah, well, you'll have to. So we're going to talk about a couple of Paizo stuff. First off, they've got the Gunslinger and Inventor playtests up. The Guns and Gears playtest, as they call it. I'm not sure what book they're going to involve it in, but hey, they're introducing more of their base character classes. And I don't know if they had an Inventor before. That's one of those things. But so it might be similar to like Artificer is in the third party. Or D&D, yeah. So we'll see we'll talk about that. Then they also have a holiday monster, the Merry Lwyd, which I believe,
Lwyd?
Which is apparently some kind of Welsh holiday Krampus-y monster that's a horse head thing. We'll talk about that.
Which I think it's funny that they bring it out after the holiday.
It's a little behind schedule, just a little bit. It originally came out January 1st, and I missed it for last week because sometimes you miss some things that are just out then, and I managed to get it for this week. Battlestar Galactica, the Starship Battles game is discontinued. It's because of license agreement on that one. So we'll talk about that a little bit because that's talk about licensing agreement. Monster Hunters Club and RPG is out. So that's like 1980s cartoons. Fantasy Flight's holding a Twilight Imperium map design contest, which I just find kind of interesting and weird too. And then we got a couple things from Wizkids. Gates of Mara is now available. I'm unsure if we talked about it before. We might have. And then finally, they've announced Waddle Downtown, which is a Penguins in a Big City card game. Yeah. Let's start with the big topic for today. I think that's the good place to start it, and that's, of course, the Pathfinder playtest, because we got yet another playtest from Pathfinder coming out. They did their Secrets of Magic playtest a little while ago, and their book is going to be coming out later on this year. I don't know what book this is going to be involved with. This is like an interesting one. They're giving us another playtest, but they're not like... Normally they've been hooking their playtests directly to books, so I can only assume there's going to be a book.
They do say if you read the playtest period after the playtest, you won't be able to use it until the book is released.
So yeah, it's going to be in a book, but we don't know what book it is right now.
Yeah,
is the only thing. Like, you know, the other book was the Secrets of Magic playtest, so they're like, this is the book. So I feel like maybe this one, they're focusing less on playtesting the entire book and more playtesting the classes. Hey, Josh. So can I magic missile from Joe from here to ad infinitum? He said you're our DM. We were being very silly before the show started, okay? I'm not going to deny that. We had a very silly conversation.
When don't we?
God, we are. We got in a conversation about...
Maybe the book will be Guns and Gears.
That's true. The book could be, Yes, he's joined the band The Darkness, and according to traditional D&D, you can magic missile the darkness. Or at least that really bad skit.
Thought you could only hit the lead singer.
I don't know. But yeah, Guns and Gears. Joe was looking into this a lot more than I was. He had read through this a lot more. Things like I
want to shoot my way up a mountain.
That's apparently something you can do. It's when you do a jump.
Yeah, there's a feat you can take where either you either taking the dash or jumping, you can shoot behind you or underneath you to get an additional 10 feet.
It's very silly. Oh, God. And my description was, are you a video game or anime character now? And the answer was to that, yes.
My question was, if you jump down from an area, can you negate 10 feet of fall damage by shooting the ground?
I don't know. I said maybe.
Unfunny says yes.
Uh-huh. They also had Ghost Gun, which we thought was
ghost.
Yeah, either you shoot ghosts, you shoot ghosts at people, you shoot ghosts with your gun, but it turns out no, you shoot like a ghost. It's a sniper skill. Ghost Gun. It's you basically can sniper someone and remain hidden. And I'm like, oh, that also makes sense, but we didn't think of it because Pathfinder tends to be very silly a little bit on these things. I'm like, I thought for a second you could shoot ghosts with your gun.
Oh yeah, the
shoot ghosts.
The jumping / moving faster is black powder boost.
What level is that you can take that?
4th.
Oh my God.
It's a 4th level feat.
And the inventor is basically, it sounds like an artificer from 5th edition kind of type class. Which there was an artificer in Pathfinder earlier on. So, the artificer in Pathfinder had its issues, so maybe it had still popularity. And the popularity of artificer in 5th edition means that the combine of two of those mean they want to do their own one. So they've got the inventor, which you create devices and minions, and apparently for Gunslinger. Apparently the inventor can blow himself up, or his minion. That was one of the powers they had.
The inventor, yeah. It's one of their first level feats, I think it was. Oh, no. No, it's just an ability. It's just an ability explosion.
Mm-hmm.
Explode. Your invention is a unique creation barely held together by your own creativity and engineering. Yeah, you can use your invention to blow up, damaging nearby creatures without damaging the invention. Hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
The explosion deals 2d6 fire damage at a 5-foot emanation around you. If it's something that you're wearing or holding, or if it's one of your minions that you've created, you can try to not be damaged by doing a basic reflex save.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that I really like the Pathfinder playtests. I feel like they've been a little... I don't know if they're better than any Unearthed Arcana in 5th edition, but I think we talked about them, that they're very nice that they're doing this a little bit more ahead of books. I think the Unearthed Arcana is a little bit more experimental, and you don't know what's going to end up in books, and sometimes they rewrite them heavily. These end up having pretty heavy relights, the 4th, that power of shooting and moving yourself around, that might be altered. We don't know. But again, the playtest is running from the 5th to the 5th, so from 4 days ago it started, it's going to go to the 5th of next month, and that's someone on a motorcycle at this time of year in my background?
Yes.
Or at least something that has a really revvy engine.
Okay, I don't know why this even exists. One of the inventor's feats they can take is transform armor.
Huh.
And you're modified your armor to collapse into a much smaller compact form. In compact form, your armor innovation is easier to carry with a bulk 1 lower than the bulk listed for it, to a minimum of light bulk. You can transform your armor into or out of its compact form and put it on or take it off in an instant. It's like, how often are you taking your armor off in game?
Resting.
Yeah, I mean, if you're wearing a heavier armor.
Also, you know, depending on certain circumstances, like if you're going into like more diplomatic situations where there could be the possibility of combat, but most likely there will be not. Like, we're going to go meet the king. All of a sudden, assassins attack. You know, you might have to be ready to help protect the king from assassins. You know, you were there to meet him. You're the kind of heroic types, you know. You might want to get involved. The inventor would be like, chunk, 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 transform armor. I'm ready for action.
Oh. But this second level feed's cooler. No, I created you.
Okay.
You appeal to your construct's companion's bonds with its creator to have it break free of its controlling effect. Attempting to control the construct... attempting to counteract the effect that confused or controlled your construct companion using your crafting modifier. So if someone tries to steal your construct... Like, no, I created you.
There's got to be some kind of like magic based upon that kind of thing then, or like abilities or something that like they're adding in the playtest. Because off the top of my head, I can't think of a lot of stuff that would steal constructs or stuff like that. But I guess there is some stuff.
Okay, they really like the idea of making these people jump around more. First level inventor feat, explosive leap. You aim an explosion downward, directly beneath your feet, or in order to launch yourself into the air. You jump 30 feet in any direction without touching the ground. You must land on a space of solid ground within 30 feet of you, or else you fall after using your next action.
Explosions and guns. Yeah. Like, the thing I have to say about Pathfinder is Pathfinder does a really good job of how they kind of define gunslingers and guns in it. It's sort of like how Faerun technically has guns, but they're far less than even Pathfinder does them. Because in Faerun, in Forgotten Realms, its Lantan has smoke powder, and they're really the only ones that knows about it because a god gave them the ability to do it. Here, one nation invented it. You know, that was kind of it. One nation has invented it, so it's actually just an invention.
Undergun.
It kind of is. Like, if you play in that nation, they talk about having guns there. And technically speaking, can you shoot yourself out of your armor? Maybe? Depending on the form your armor is in. If it's in compact form, I'm sure it's easier to slip in and out of.
Well, no, compact form is what you put it into it when you're carrying it.
Ah.
You're not compacting yourself into your armor.
No, I thought it like shrinks down on your body or something.
No, it does allow you to instantaneously take it on and put it off.
Ah, okay.
But you don't compact.
Oh, so it's the suitcase armor that like Tony Stark had in one movie. I can't remember which of the Iron Mans it is, but like he's the suitcase and and it transforms onto you. Yeah, okay. So you're Iron Man as the inventor. So either you're anime gunslinger or Iron Man in these.
Yes.
Oh god, it's so silly and I love it. I haven't been able to do the playtest. You got it earlier, but right now for me clicking on it, it's not doing it. Rimpy 2.0, it really would be. Oh, there it goes. Well, the playtest click when
I'll
it's
also put the link in our chat.
Yeah. Well, when I click on the playtest is found here, I get it's not working. But
try this one.
There it goes. Thank you. Because that's the direct download to it.
Yeah. But yeah, manifold modifications.
Yeah. No, I feel like it's the thing I say about second edition Pathfinder. Their character creation and characters are really neat and interesting. They've done a really good job with characters. It just sometimes the system sucks. Or at least I have issues with it occasionally. Oh, God. I like this one. The Tinkerer could make little constructs for yourself. Oh, it's so cool. I mean, honestly, the inventor's really neat, too.
I love some of the names of the feats. Like, you failed to account for this. Level 16 feet.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, like, you get invitations like armor, constructs, weapons. You get like a blaster gun or something that looks like steampunk medieval. I don't know. There's weird shit you get. But no, the playtest is neat. It's going on now. It's going on for a month if people want to check it out. Pathfinder 2nd Edition is one of those ones that, again, I tell people, I do, in the end, I think I like the system of Pathfinder 2nd Edition just because the character creation is great. The issues I've had with the rules are bad issues, but they're not game-breaking issues. It's just, if I can play White Wolf, and White Wolf has the worst goddamn layouts for books for looking at rules, this isn't so bad. It's got bad layouts for looking for rules, but it ain't no White Wolf, where they also, like, plug in 4 pages of flavor text. And you're, like, looking for something, and, like, why is there all this flavor text? This is too much flavor text. Go away, flavor text. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, see page 5, and then see page 210, and then see page 37.
I had to do that one time, Pathfinder 2nd Edition, something like that, because it's sort of like I had to go to where the problem we were kind of having, and that referenced 2 different other things, and so then I went in on this, like, they didn't have notebooks, they had novels. Accurate. So went on, like, a bunch of transitions to different places. That was my worst 2nd Edition event. And I hate their surprise rounds, but, you know. But,
I was talking White Wolf with see page this, see
I know.
page that.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's just as bad. Yeah, then you have to, like, reference a lot of stuff. God.
It's like, can I have 10 copies of this book so I can have all the pages I need to reference open?
Yeah, it's like I have to look up Blood Bond. Okay. So it talks about it here, here, and here. They're all in different spots. Which one do I have to read through for what I'm looking for about this blood bond? I don't know. I have to guess. No. Only one of them will be correct. That's how it works. Yeah, you just have to go through the entire section of them. But they also released a holiday monster, the Mary Lwyd, which I'll link their blog post.
How lewd are you?
I'll link to their blog post here. I'll send it in chat. And it's spelled MARILWYD. And apparently, this is a Welsh thing. Like a Welsh winter monster or something.
Good old Welsh.
It's a Wesleyan folk custom found in South Wales, where traditional entrails... the tradition entrails the use of an eponymous hobby horse, which is made from a horse's skull, mounted on a pole and carried by an individual hidden under a sackcloth.
Lovely.
They made it into a big Fey monster. A creature, a level 11 Fey monster. Because it's creature 11, because they changed it to levels and not challenge rating anymore, because they want to confuse me. Fucking just call it challenge rating.
Just you.
Wait, I like it's got the special ability, mostly harmless. Mary Lwyd is out simply to enjoy the season. The Mary Lwyd's attacks have the non-lethal trait when attacking creatures, unless those creatures attempt a hostile action on Mary Lwyd first. And it's persistent.
So it'll non-lethally attack you unless you attack it back.
And it's got jaws and hoofs, each for one action. And it's got persistent wailing. Cannot be disrupted by common means. It always knows if a building is truly unoccupied or if the occupants can speak or hear just by merely refusing to sing back. It is immune to silence and similar effects up to 5th level. It's just like making noise. Oh, it's wassailing. It's persistent wassailing. It's caroling. It's constantly caroling.
Here we come, a wassailing among the green.
I thought it was wailing. It's wassailing.
Shouldn't this have come out like before Christmas?
It should have, but and there's also PWNCO, the Ponko. You can begin a rhyming contest with it. It begins a rhyming contest. Requesting entrance to a closed home, tavern, other building that has occupants who can perform it, who can respond to it. It makes perform checks, and one of the occupants must spend 3 actions to perform a song of their own. And if it succeeds, it keeps going.
You know what my answer is? Go away. I have no figgy pudding.
Okay, so eventually, if the respondents lose to it, it demands hospitality, causing the door to unlock and open any bars on the doors, so it can just enter inside. And if no occupant of the building offers it alcohol or cheese before the start of the next turn, it demands that it behave itself, and it uses Festive Rampage, which is a special ability. Oh god, when it's in Festive Rampage, it gains resistance to all 10 damage and its strikes ignore 10 hardness. It just start destroying everything. Oh my god, it walks around singing, which anybody that's around has to sing so it knows where you are. It then gets into a rhyming contest with you. If you fail the rhyming contest, every time you succeed on the rhyming contest against it, which is a perform check, it gets -2. So it gets accumulative, it gets worse. And it starts at a +21 towards perform. If you fail, you get magically let in, and then you have to offer alcohol or cheese, or it gets angry and destroys your house.
So it's trick or treating
for Christmas. I love this monster.
This is the most ridiculous.
This is so silly. I really want to use this for something now. I don't have an option to.
Too bad it wasn't around for our Christmas episode.
I would have done Pathfinder 2nd Edition for this Christmas episode. I would have written something personally rather than used a pre-made adventure just to have this thing like try to break in and get cheese and booze. Oh, it's so hilarious. Thanks, Paizo. You're a little late, but I mean,
well, keep it on the books for next year.
I'll try. That's good. That's good. They did some silly stuff, and it's a good silly stuff. It's a weird creature.
Not the wassailing monster. No.
Yes. The wassailing monster. You too will be wassailed to the ends of time. But we should
trying to wassel me in my sleep.
Move on because there's still more stuff to talk about.
No, more wassailing.
It is not the season. Let's talk about a discontinued product, which again, like I think it's more to talk about it because this is the plight that people that have licensing agreements have. So the Battlestar Galactica Starship Battles combat miniature game is discontinued. So won't be made anymore, won't be making more products for it. And in the end, it's the license agreement expired on December 31st. And they couldn't extend the negotiations. So there were actually going to be doing 2 expansions in this year for it, and they'll be released as free downloadable PDFs, and no further models will be released. Sales of existing inventory will continue through 2021, hopefully trying to sell them out. It's one of those things about like licensed games which are really hard, and it's kind of like what we talked about, I think, and hinted at something like when they made The Walking Dead for Magic the Gathering. They're licensed.
Yeah.
They can't really reprint those things again. Ever.
Unless they renew the license.
Yeah, which, that's negotiations, that's money, you know?
Yeah.
That product made them a lot of money. It's the unfortunate thing that it's... You have enough people that were either fans of The Walking Dead or didn't care in Magic and just bought it. It was a stupid idea. But you got plenty of people that will spend money on it, and it wasn't cheap either. So, yes, maybe it was the best-selling, thing. Like, it's again, like, Magic's been abusing their secret layers so much, and they've been making so much money on them that they're going to keep doing them,
Oh, yeah.
Because there's, again, like, you only need, like, X number of people that have a lot of spending money that play Magic, and they're going to get it. But getting back to the Battlestar Galactica thing here, I mean, the thing is, it's been out since 2018, December actually, so it really was only building the game for 2 years. That's not very long to have a license. It's the unfortunate thing that things ended on the negotiations for it. Oh. It makes me worried when we see a lot of licensed products out there, especially in the board game market, and I think that's a good way to put out certain board games because, it's when we talked about with some people that help produce board games or make them, some of those higher companies, especially when we were talking to Brotherwise Games and stuff like that too, that they get suggestions for games, and those suggestions for games, they don't always keep the initial veneer, the initial aesthetic that they have. They keep sometimes the core rules, and if someone's selling you a game and they don't care about the picture over top of it, they might be branded, and when they're branded, that's a licensing deal. But then it also changes it that it's harder to do more expansions for it, it's hard to expand upon it. Yes, that brand deal might sell it more. That's about it. So
yeah, well, depending on the negotiations too, sometimes they'll get some money from the company too. Of okay, well, we'll help promote your product. We'll put money into promoting it because it also promotes us.
I think it's very rare that kind of licensing occurs, and that's usually for smaller products. Something like Battlestar Galactica here, certainly the company had to spend money for it. But yes, I'm guessing smaller products definitely would be there. Again, that's not if people don't do things on their own. And do their own kind of licensing stuff out to things, their own kind of products related to their small things. I'm trying to think of small branded stuff off the top of my head, and I'm not thinking of any good one. I guess a good example would be a indie video game. If an indie video game wanted another product, like a tabletop product related to it, then yeah, they, depending on the circumstances and depending on how successful they were, if they were moderately successful, they might be willing to pay some money to do it. Or rather than be paid money, sharing the profits or something like that,
Yeah.
Do a profit share. If they were very successful, they might be willing to have someone pay them for it and still sharing the profits. I mean, there's always that profit share margin that's usually in these things,
I agree with what Unfunny just said, though, that royalties are a better workaround on that.
Yeah, definitely. That you, do a royalties agreement rather than licensing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem with royalties is you don't know how much money, because it depends on how successful it is. Royalty is more of a gamble. Licensing is less of a gamble, but then it can screw product lines, especially if there's a breakdown. Kind of the big name licensing. Frickin' Marvel's been licensing Spider-Man. That's really what they've been doing. You have to think about it.
Yeah.
That's effectively what they've been doing.
Because unfortunately they sold the rights to Sony.
Yeah, well that was, long ago. And Sony's never going to give it up. Unless they also get eaten by Disney, which theoretically won't happen because Sony also has their video game section, but...
never underestimate what Disney can or will do.
Well, because Sony is both sides of the company. Their movie side they might sell off,
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is it's you never know with Disney.
Then they'd really be a monopoly, and we've already worried about other monopolies, but anyway.
They already are a monopoly.
But yeah, a licensed game comes to an end, one that hasn't been out too long. I've only done a few ship miniatures or miniatures games like this, and they were fun. I'm not the biggest Battlestar Galactica fan. I enjoyed the series when it came out, the newer one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, you weren't alive when the original came out.
I did see some of it on old Sci-Fi Channel,
but you weren't alive when it came out.
That's true. And all that I saw on it was basically back in the early days of Sci-Fi Channel when it was old sci-fi reruns, weird sci-fi animation early in the mornings, and then late night anime that was mostly Vampire Hunter D and Project Echo, and a couple others.
And also back when their name actually spelled sci-fi and not
Yes,
sci-fi.
it's not sci-fi, because sci-fi is dumb. I don't think I've watched sci-fi in a long time. They don't have original movies now. They just show movies now. I don't know what original programming they have.
They used to be the best for original programming. Like, a lot of
Battlestar Galactica! Wasn't that on sci-fi? It was, wasn't it?
Farscape. I loved Farscape.
I can list them. Eureka was good. I like that one a lot.
Really
was it Warehouse 13? I like that one. Like they're not always as great. Like I think Eureka
their
was
movie,
really
well, no, their TV shows were always good. Their movies were always B.
Well, their movies were oftentimes taken from B companies that they can then license out them and put them that they have part of producing it. Yeah, they aren't anything anymore, unfortunately. I don't even know if they have like original series because like I just couldn't get into any more of their series because like just their scheduling too.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you know, Battlestar Galactica, it's another probably death knell on this kind of thing. We may not hear about it. So, yeah. Oh, I haven't changed our image. Whatever. There was the... Wait, let me just show people the weird horse head. There you go. I had the weird horse head. And then, did that show up the Battlestar Galactica? It did, but terrible. And let me alter this one, because then I can get it to work right. Hey, cool.
Hunter.
So this is an RPG that puts you in the role of, well, it's a Saturday morning cartoon. You're like Scooby-Doo or the Ghostbusters. Not the real Ghostbusters. The one with the, was it a gorilla or something?
Yeah, it was the gorilla, and they had the phone, the skull phone that talked.
Yeah, the Hanna-Barbera one. Because there was apparently was like a 60s or 50s version that was live
action show.
Probably a little bit of like some of those other like mystery groups, you know, like Speed Buggy or Jabberjaw or any of those other ones that have like an anthropomorphic something or other with a group of teens. They did a lot of those shows. So yes, it's set in like at the town of Gulf Haven. Horrible creatures are coming to life. Adults seem blind to it. It's up to you to find out what happened. It's, you know, I think this is aiming for more kids than teens, but I'm guessing you can kind of do whatever. So rather than like maybe young teens, so not like, you know, not quite at that level of Scooby-Doo, but I'm sure because they're aiming for like the 80s, you know, kind of Saturday morning cartoony kind of feel it feels like, and I don't know how serious they are. They might end up being a little bit more Erie, Indiana, and a little less Scooby-Doo. Which Erie, Indiana, it was a lot more like Kids on Bikes. So I'm questioning how much it's Kids on Bikes and how much it's Scooby-Doo, and if it's somewhere in the middle or somewhere like more towards the other. Because they're a little bit more, they're saying kid adventure movies. They're kind of aiming a little bit more for. But just from the description, it kind of made me feel Saturday morning cartoons. So.
Also, it was Filmation, not Hanna-Barbera.
For the... Okay. Well, they were all doing that. And Filmation was trying to get on the market, I think, that Hanna-Barbera had kind of stolen a lot of. Because Hanna-Barbera was the cartoon king for a long time.
It even had a talking ghost car.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. Because I was looking at pictures.
I guess this is also a little bit more... Because it's the entire idea that, like, you know, the adults can't do anything about it. You know, the grown-ups, you know. That maybe it's a little bit more... maybe there are storylines that are a little bit more Blackout Club. That's a video game that came out that was really weird, and I saw some people playing it, which was kind of interesting. I might have gotten that one. Never played it. So yeah, it's got a ton of detailed customable archetypes, edges and hindrances, 4 arcane backgrounds, a ton of Gulf Haven, Alabama, in the 1980s. A complete plot point campaign with Savage Tales, an adventure generator, and a settings for the, you know, and it uses the Savage World rulebook. So it's based on Savage World. Because, like, Kids on Bikes is its own system, which we've had, like, Teens in Space, and what was the one that was in, and then like they had their Magical School one too, I think, that they put out that are using the same system. This is using the Savage World system, which we talked about the Savage World system again before. It's one that has a bunch of games set in it, and I don't think we've tested it out yet, but it's definitely a system that I would want to test out at some point in time. I don't know if this is the game to do it in, but Monster Hunter COD, it is technically out now. You can get the PDF for $20, or you can get the PDF and the book for basically the price of getting the book. Like, if you get the book, you get the PDF for free right now. They have it offered. I don't know if that's a permanent thing, but they have it marked down for rather just buying both of them. You can get both of them together.
That's always nice.
Get some books okay? I've heard it's okay. It's definitely one of those ones that I think, like, the system's okay, and, like, depending on who's running it and, like, the game you're running in can make a difference, Yeah, short-term campaigns.
I think that's with any game. It always depends on who the DM's...
Well, I feel like it's probably derived as more, like, maybe episodic, so it's, like, probably... It would be a lot more like you're in a show like Erie, Indiana, where you have, like, small adventures or something, and they're not necessarily connected together, right. And whether or not the same characters are there or not might be up just to you, what the storyline tells you, if it can or not, Okay, think seasons of a show. Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how this one will be. Like, if it'll be a little more campaigny or not. But I like styles of games like this that are like, 80s, kids, teens, adventures, monsters, and kind of stuff like that. I like those. They're fun. It's nostalgic for me, because I grew up in the 80s, technically. At least I was very young during that time period. And early 90s. So.
Back in our day.
Grumble, grumble, old man, grumble, grumble, grumble.
Get off my front lawn and bring back my morning cartoons.
They fucking will never do that. Those die. Morning cartoons are one of those things that super died. They super died.
Oh, yeah. Well, once there was, like, 24-hour Cartoon Networks and stuff, it's like...
Yeah, I don't know. Also, they got awful. There was a lot less effort, and I think, like, the other thing was, like, we ended up with a lot of, like, badly dubbed anime and stuff. I mean, really badly dubbed anime.
Yeah.
But let's talk Twilight Imperium. Fantasy Flight's running in a contest. Yeah. It's a contest for Imperium, Twilight Imperium map design contest. So, like, every time you play Twilight Imperium, you start by constructing your own galaxy. And typically players work together to build a galaxy for every new game, but you can also construct a custom board of your own. So, like, it's a map contest where you're using the map building that you would do at the beginning of Twilight Imperium to build a map. It's interesting, but also weird, because, again, it's a game that you build your own map, but you're having a contest for maps.
Well, maybe they want to have some, like, pre-made ideas.
That might be it for pre-made.
Add into a new,
Yeah, it's, So the rules of the contest are simple. You choose a player count. There's a winner for each player count, because I'm guessing the map size depends on the player count for the game. And 6 winning pre-made maps will be featured in Volume 2 of Imperium Codex. Okay, so yeah, they put out map codex, so it's like pre-made maps that you can build and use for it too. So they will be featured, the 6 maps that will win, for the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 players. They've got some specifications for it. I'm not going to go into them. They also provide a template with numbers located in the leftmost corner for a tile system that you'd use for filling out stuff. You send your completed template and a picture of your map. Phone quality is fine, to an email address. You have to do it by the 31st. I don't know what else you win other than it's in a book.
And they probably list your name and stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's like a weird contest. Because, like,
some people just like like having
That's true.
Hey, it's cool. My name's listed here. And if you're really a big fan of the game,
yeah,
I've never played. I want to try it at some point, but
Twilight
I know
Imperium is a game that I have avoided just because I know it can be a very long game because it's souped up Risk is the only thing.
Yeah.
I think the description of it is like that I've always heard is it Axis and Allies meets diplomacy meets Risk in space was the way that it was always described to me. Granted, that might not be perfectly correct.
3-part tabletop episode.
God. It can take a long time. That's the thing about it. Yeah, Galactic Risk is when you say about it. It's like, Risk is a game that can take a very long time in multiple sessions, and that's like...
Especially depending on how many people you have playing.
Yeah. And so, granted, like, those games can go quick because someone can steamroll, and you don't expect it, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're done. You know? That happens. But also, you can just have very long games that last...
People are turtling
forever. And that's what always worries me, is you're going to be in a game that lasts forever, and then it's like, well, I'm in this game, and I'm playing it some more, and playing it some more, and we'll eventually be done, and 10 hours later, it's like, well, we're not quite done yet, I guess we have to take a break.
This is the game that never ends.
That's the problem, is the way that the game is built, you can run into problems like that. Like, I don't think Risk ever says it's a very long game. Every time I've played Risk, either I've never finished it, or it's been very long. Like 4 hours long. Every time I played Risk.
I've finished Risk games before.
But have you played them... How fast have you been in a game of Risk?
Normally like 2 hours.
That's pretty good.
2 or 3. You have to... One of the things... A game like that, you also have to agree that, you need to be aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not being aggressive at all, and you're just kind of like you're gonna chill out in Australia for 100 turns, just trying to build up a massive army.
It's sort of like, I just looked up on Wikipedia Risk, and they say playtime 1 to 8 hours.
Yeah. It also depends on how many people.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you have a lot of people, it takes time to build up anything. Because you have to normally you have to knock a couple players out then before you can actually start getting any decent size army.
No, I looked up Twilight Imperium on the same place, on like Wikipedia, and they say 5 to 14 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so long.
That's why I said 3-part episode.
It's a lot. I mean, granted, like, I gotta say, like, if you're having fun, great. And the thing is, this is 4th edition they're talking about, and 4th edition may be better. It might be... Because it came out in 2017, and honestly speaking, the 4th edition might be streamlined a little bit. And by streamlined a little bit, it might be at Risk levels of 1 to 8 hours rather than 5 to 17 hours. I don't know. It's just the fact, like, we have to remember, I like Arkham Horror. I never play Arkham Horror because it's a bitch to set up, bitch to play, and bitch to put down, because that's like a 2 to 4 hour game, I'd call it. Granted, again, I don't know the new edition because I've never played the new edition, but the old edition, the previous one, that's what it was.
Yeah. But again, that's why you play it on tabletop, so you don't have to set it up. And if you find a version that's scripted...
Oh god, scripted versions are great, yeah. Scripted versions of anything really help. Like, if you find scripted Twilight Imperium, that might be the way to go on tabletop sim, but then again, like... There are people that play these in real life, and take the time to do it. So, more power to them on that one. But yeah.
That's the thing, is setup time for games like that can be a large chunk of that playtime, too.
Yeah. Setup and takedown included. But yeah, it's a very good name though too. Like, you hear that and it sounds like, yeah, that's a cool sounding board game. Twilight Imperium. It definitely has that, and like when you see that it's like a space game and it's Twilight Imperium, you got like the picture of like like Galaxy or something on the cover, you're like, oh, this sounds awesome. This would be a great game to play, and I'm sure it's fun to play. Like, I don't mind Risk as a game. I just don't feel like I ever have the time to play it. That's why I don't play Twilight Imperium.
But again, on something like Tabletop, where you can save it and walk away and not have to worry about someone bumping the board.
Yeah, true, maybe.
Something like that.
As long as the save holds.
More...
As long as the save loads up right, which sometimes they don't. You've got to make sure it does. Risk is a mixed bag. I say, like, I've had boring times with it, I've had good times with it. Depends on who you're playing with, I think, for Risk. By far. And, you know, how active you are. But I haven't played it that much. So, maybe I've gotten lucky. Again,
like I said, you really need to establish that, okay, no one's allowed to just turtle in their area forever.
Yep.
Or else the game does just then. It's just like, oh, it's dragging on forever because...
turtling right now.
You have one person just sitting there not doing anything except trying to build up a massive amount of people. And then that's just like everyone starts to either try to gang up on them or they just get ignored because like, oh, they're not doing anything, and all of a sudden they steamroll the whole game.
Again, these are reasons why I rarely play those types of games because, you know, I've had mixed bag of experience with them. And, you know, like, the temptation for a good time versus the temptation of, like, and it takes up a lot of time.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what to do. Don't worry about it. Let's talk about Gates of Mara. Because we got 2 more topics to hit up on, and Gates of Mara is one of them. So, you lead a tribe of the Gates of Mara, portals of pure energy. I think we talked a little bit about this when they announced it. As my niece is screaming in the background. I don't know what she's screaming about. It's not like an angry scream. It's like she's making like a deep voice. I think
she's interested.
She's being very silly. I know her voices, and this is her, like, she's just making like a deep voice and he's screaming, you know? So she's being silly.
Yeah. Like I said, she's interesting.
So here's a game that takes a long time to play because Gates of Mara takes 90 minutes to 2 hours.
This is not horrible.
It's not horrible. Encounter powerful elemental lords, spread your control, summon colorful magic, vie for the most influence in each realm, so you establish your tribal claims. I think we talked about it a little bit out, but it's out now. For $70. It doesn't have miniatures for $70, but what it's got is it's got like those cardboard cutout tokens, like the pretty decent ones that like Pathfinder puts them out. You know, I don't mind the Pathfinder bestiary boxes because they're like the again, they're those like cardboard tokens which are pretty good and pretty decent quality, and these are kind of what they are, along with like a lot of other tokens. 1 billion tokens. If you look at this game is like so goddamn token heavy. So it is still pricey even for a token game, I think, because 70 I usually put into like light miniatures games, so I don't know. Yeah, cause it's got a bunch of standees, a lot of tokens. I don't know. Is the thing about it. Like, just saying about whether it's too much expense. I'll make my own shard with blackjacks and kitsune. I mean, I expected the kitsune, honestly, for New Lightning.
We always expect Kitsune from Lightning.
So,
and Blaze.
Definitely for Blaze. Blaze might go to Tabaxi, though.
Yeah. Same difference. Cat people's a cat. Well,
one's fox person, the other
yeah.
Cat people.
Foxy cat people.
What else have you built that you're like being... I don't know. Not the same time. I mean, it could be half... We ended up with the possibility of half Kitsune, half Tabaxi in Treasure of the Last Legion, in Spelljammer. Rachel's Tabaxi character married a Kitsune at the end of the game.
You're right.
So we could have had half breeds. That was
Talk about a foxy lady.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it was a catty lady and a foxy man.
But if they have a girl, it might be a foxy lady.
You never know. I mean, I'm pretty sure we talked about this game. It's nice to kind of announce that it's out now. Things are going pretty well for Wizkids. We haven't talked about a Wizkids thing for a while. Only when 9 wizards come together can the 9-tailed fox appear. I mean, I think there's only 5 gates here, so it doesn't work. Or is it 4 gates?
So if 8 wizards come together, does an 8-tailed fox appear?
We're so distracted. I'm going to switch over to Waddle,
Yes.
because that's cute, and maybe cuteness will distract people. Hey, look, there's a game about penguins in a city with bow ties. Take a look at that. Hey, look, everybody. Shiny penguins in bow ties. They're adorable.
Why are the penguins shiny?
Shut up.
You should cover them in oil.
Shut up. Aren't they normally oiled up? No, they're that penguin that was the demon penguin. No, they're the penguin that was the demon penguin that I was hugging because it was immune to blood snow, and I wanted to be immune to blood snow too. Don't you remember that? It was really a demon penguin, and we didn't know. We're like, well, this place has blood snow. There must be things... There's a penguin out there. It must be immune to it. I'm like, I'm going to rub myself in its grease. It was like a 9-foot-tall penguin. And then it proved to be evil and tried to murder us.
No, you need to go Star Wars, cut open a polar bear and just wear its skin.
Oh god, that's right. It was third party, and we have to thank our friend for bringing it in. The Pengizu.
Oh god.
The demon penguins of the abyss. They were a thing.
But anyway,
they're CR11.
let's Waddle.
But Waddle, it's it's a fun, friendly game. Ages, I don't know. They don't mention it, and I can't see it on the box. Probably ages very low to very low.
See if I can enhance.
Zoom and enhance. Oh, there it is.
No.
Ages 10 plus. I managed to get the zoom and enhance.
Oh yeah, actually, ages 10 plus, 2 to 4 players. Release date is February 2021. It's on the upper right corner under details. You don't even need to zoom in and enhance.
Demon penguins have to be spicy. Definitely spicy. Really? Apparently, legendary video game designer Ralph Koster, who worked on Ultima Online and Star Wars Galaxy, and tabletop girl Isaac Shilev, who I don't know who that is, designed this game. I love how Wizkids likes to actually say that. This is something that I like that Wizkids do, but it's also something that doesn't work as well in other things. Like in movies, you can link a movie to a director very well. Like this movie directed it, so it's got a style that they took. And sometimes if you want to look deeper, you can look into who wrote the script. Things like that. If there's original story, who's it's based, who starred in it. You look at that kind of stuff for movies. Video games is very, very bad about that. But there's a couple of things like when Sid Meier is the lead designer on something. It's like Sid Meier's Civilization. Oh hey, Sid Meier's doing something here, or stuff
right.
like that. Or whoever did SimCity, I'm forgetting his name now, but I forget a lot of names over time. They're trying to do the same for board games a lot. They're like, from board game designer, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, who the fuck is that? From this video game person, I'm like, I'm sorry, I should know video game people, but the video game industry is very good at suppressing that side of things, most often, unless, the name is the selling point. Which it rarely unfortunately rare that's a selling point for names. And that's a mixed bag whether it works or not. I mean, I remember of them years ago, because there was the Ultima guy, and there's other ones like Shigeru Miyamoto for Nintendo, but there's a lot of games that you just don't recognize the names of the people that are in front of them, unfortunately. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. It's like from this guy that made good games. Here's another silly game. That's good. Like the board game people, like anytime that Richard Garfield does something because he designed Magic, you know, it's like this is from the minds of Richard Garfield. I'm like, oh, cool. You know, he was the original designer of Magic. He occasionally stops back and helps them with some stuff. You know, he's not completely out of there, and he does board game design on his own. Yeah, video games are harder because the teams involved are huge.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could blame the director, if they had like a director that you could blame for a lot of issues in a video game, you know, just like we have directors that we could blame for a lot of issues in a movie, or writers that we would know about, like you can blame directors, writers, things like that. Like if we had that kind of chain of command in video games, so if it's video games bad, we can blame those part of the people. It's the unfortunate thing that a lot of times video games are bad. It's management. Of course, there's movies that when movies are bad, you also know it's management, but like, you know, they stand out a lot more. And you can look into these things. Yeah, management's still like, there's so many people working on video games. There's supposed to be a lot of people working on movies. I think it's just that, like, in video games, they don't have a lot of people helming it the same way. They split it between a lot of people. Because, like, movies have, like, a shit ton of people, too. Anyway. But no, you know, it's a board game set around, is a set of 5 to 10 places depending on the player count, with room for 5 penguins, with little adorable penguin illustrations that are trying to wreak havoc at restaurants, libraries, or even the opera. So apparently you're trying to destroy everything as evil, I guess you're not evil penguins, but I don't know. You're just wandering around downtown. But
you're trying to herd them into your collection.
Mm-hmm. Because they're sightseeing. They're curious penguins that are, like, causing problems in the city and sightseeing, and they're like, oh no, the penguins are in the opera. Please, penguins, get out of the opera.
Yeah, but herding penguins as they visit places is easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're trying to keep, like, groups of them together or something.
Yeah. So the final components may vary, but they're saying it's going to be like around 52 cards, 32 penguins, scoreboard, some tokens, markers, 10 place tiles, which you'll use a number of depending on the players, and then the rule book. It's supposed to be very easy to learn, but it's supposed to have like that like steep learning curve kind of thing. Yeah, so sad about that. That like the AAA industry, as it's called, you know, the big name industry, is very bloated. And so there's a lot of, like, you know, bosses and stuff. And then, like, you know, indie games tends to be where you get a lot of that, like, you can name it. Like, honestly speaking, like, you know, I can name a couple of small video game companies, and that's about it. Like, I can't name individuals from those companies. It'd be like, it's kind of weird because it's different than independent. This is an interesting discussion that it shouldn't be gotten into today, but it's like an interesting discussion on like the comparisons between like the board game industry, video game industry, and movie industry, because they're all three big entertainment industries. Of course, board game is growing more, the board game / tabletop industry, but it still has some things that mimic some of the other industries there too. Like movie industry, it's very much so a big industry. Independent films can be billed, but they are definitely wholly independent, and oftentimes there aren't any repeats within the company, and also like those independent films rarely kind of hit mainstream media. Independent video games can have their success because of the natures of the platforms and stuff and the way to get out there, and it seems so it's like a lot more accessible in that way. So you have a very thriving independent sector, and of course you have the big name sector, but the big name sector is bloated much more than the movie industry, I'd say. The tabletop industry is kind of interesting because you have the small independent ones, but whether they are successful or not is kind of hard to judge because it's a board game and it depends on how many sell. And the big name industries are out there a lot too, and it's kind of hard to judge when something is like, you know, like you've got your big name companies that you can say are like your Steve Jackson and your Wizards, yeah, the board game can't be growing. It has problems. Well, the thing is, you think about the board game industry that actually had a boon with things like Cantan and stuff in the early 2000s. Munchkin and Cantan and games like that actually brought like a big thing back to it. You have to think about like, yeah, the home board game industry existed before video games, but honestly speaking, I don't think they were that big. That they grew alongside video games in a way, and there are so many board games coming out now. I don't think back in the time before video games you could have had an industry like this then too. You know, the video game industry took a long time to grow up, but like there were resurgence of like actual strategic board games that like, you know, were really fun, like Cantan, you know, that actually like grew the industry in the early 2000s, and there has been a kind of resurgence and growth of it. Like, as someone that's kind of looked at the industry for the past couple of years now, I can definitely say the industry is actually relatively big, because there's a lot of small independent works coming out constantly. You can look at Kickstarter and see how many small independent games are being released. The independent board game market is huge, and it's sort of like I would say like 2020 didn't help. No, 2020 didn't help any industry. Movie industry is top down. The top movies are the biggest. The independent ones are the smallest. Video game industry tends to be kind of like maybe like kind of even between that, because you can see that there's a very good independent market for things like Steam and stuff, because I can name out a bunch of independent games that did very well and did help for their company. Granted, it's not all of them, because like if you look at Steam, it's a bloated market of independent trash too, but the big name games are out there too, so it's like a very unusual market. The tabletop one, I feel like it is just like most of the stuff tends to be independent, especially nowadays with Kickstarter and stuff like that. Interestingly enough, there's a huge Kickstarter market, and then the success is not guaranteed. It's kind of random, and there is a big, like, maybe what you call AAA, AA, single A companies out there. The large, medium, and small companies that are actually companies. Like, we managed to talk with Brotherwise Games, which was great, and those were great people. Those are the people that do Boss Monster. They're kind of like a medium-style company, because when you go to a convention that's a huge tabletop convention, they don't certainly have like a Wizards thing, if Wizards is there, or a Steve Jackson game, there, but they have a big setup. You know, they're competing with their Fantasy Flights. But the thing is, Fantasy Flight is Asmodee. Asmodee owns Fantasy Flight. They recently own like the company that does Ticket to Ride. They own like a couple other ones. Wizkids is kind of like a AA, almost AAA, because they do a lot of stuff, and I think they're on their own. I don't think they're Asmodee. I can't remember. They might be under Asmodee too. If they are, that's, you know. And it's like things like Plaid Hat Games, which recently got out from under Asmodee. You know, that's a story for yourself when you get on your own. But
yeah.
I don't know if Fantasy Flight and Fantasy Age are the same. Yeah, chess, Scrabble, and Monopoly are like a huge part of it still. You can't deny that those are a huge part of the board game industry, because those are the ones that like. It's an unfortunate thought that that's the ones that are just the standard family, and there's a lot of people that even nowadays might get into them.
Oh, and they're culturally ambiguous. I mean, it's like everyone knows chess, everyone knows
Scrabble. Everyone knows about Monopoly. You know, if someone mentions Monopoly, people are going to know about it. Like, if I mention Cantan, it's going to be pretty good that there's a good chance that someone's going to know about it, but it's not ubiquitous.
Yeah.
And especially people like in a nerd-based market. If I'm talking to someone that I know would go to superhero movies or would play a lot of video games, they're probably going to know Cantan, you know. But it's interesting to look at the three industries and how they've kind of evolved. And this is horrifically off topic from Waddle Downtown. It's an interesting discussion on tabletop games and the various entertainment industries.
It happens.
I'm like, wait a second, we weren't talking about penguins. It is discussing tabletop. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we kind of skipped to the segment of asking questions and discussion.
Oh yeah, no, we had a really good. I posted a pie chart in Discord. Yeah, I'll have to check it out when I can, you know, not be using Discord for video, or maybe my phone will be nice enough to like show me how like. It's so interesting to see how like how things have grown. Well, it's also like here I said Discussing Tabletop talk. Oh yeah. In 2018, It's the unfortunate thing that, like, chess, Scrabble, Monopoly, and Ludo took up huge chunks of it. Now, others were, like, a good percentage of it, but there were, like, 30% of it. But, like, 70% was in between it. Like, Scrabble and Monopoly are big games still. Because Monopolies keep coming out with, like, we're talking about, like, USAopoly. They're USAopoly. They do licensed Monopolies. So does Hasbro.
I wouldn't be surprised, though, if we see chess resurgence and the numbers bump a little bit more with that Netflix series, The Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, I don't know Ludo off the top of my head. I've heard of Ludo, but I don't know it. Yeah, the Queen's Gambit one, yeah.
It's been really popular. It was a good series, too. My fiance and I just finished it last night.
Do I have a Discord command, or is it? I think the Discord link just shows up in the random Nightbot stuff.
Yeah, I've heard of Ludo before. I've never played it.
Yes, the Discord link shows up in the random Nightbox stuff when that shows up in the thing.
Oh, it looks like Parcheesi.
It's probably like something related to Discord.
Ludo
Discord?
is Parcheesi.
Lightning, you're silly. Ludo's Parcheesi. Basically.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's Parcheesi.
Yeah, no.
I know it's Parcheesi.
It's interesting to see these entertainment markets and how they've grown and evolved. It's sort of like, as someone that's involved who's been in the market, it's sort of like, I remember going to, like, game stores for Magic cards, and I remember, like, you'd maybe have a small board game section, maybe. You'd have other games, too. You had your role-playing section. But, like, it'd also have, like, comic books and stuff, too. If you go to, like, a gaming store now, they will probably have their comic book section still. They will have their collectible card game section. And then they will oftentimes have a robust board game section nowadays. Decent comic book stores that get a lot of, like, traffic and stuff. The board game industry grew in that market, at least.
Here's an interesting fact. There was a movie in India based on the board game Ludo.
I wouldn't be surprised. They did a freaking awful Battleship movie.
Yeah, but I'm looking up Ludo and I'm like, this is definitely Parcheesi. That's what we call it in America, at least. That's what I grew up with it as. And I'm like, Ludo the movie, like, what?
Look, I saw the Battleship movie. I'd say it wasn't good. It wasn't as awful as I thought it would be. But I have to say it was like, I could see this once for just random, like, stupid action. That's about it.
Yeah, but Ludo's even more weird because you're just trying to get from the start to your home base.
It's Parcheesi.
Yeah.
Nerd store and maybe, like, come on, Lightning, you got it. Well, I mean, like, I know, like, I don't go to nerd stores much anymore because leaving my house, especially the last year.
Yeah, I haven't been to one because of the pandemic,
But I mean, like, I would occasionally visit one. It's just that there aren't any that are nicely nearby. I think the closest nerd store is actually a sports gaming store and stuff, which I'm hoping he's still open, because he sells Magic cards, and then he also, like, is a place that if you want to do baseball card collecting and stuff like that, and sports card collecting.
That's not really a nerd store, it's a card store.
Yeah, it's a card store.
The closest nerd store to you is the one in Bethlehem. Portal.
There's one in the Slayton town to the north that was okay. I can't remember.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I remember.
But Portal is a very good game store that has a lot of stuff.
It has a long history too.
It's got a huge selection of stuff. The other one is just sort of, it's got some things.
Yeah.
It was okay. And I think our farmers market used to have one that was horribly overpriced, but
That was mainly Magic, though. They didn't really have many board games.
Huh. It was a movie and game store. It had anime. I don't know if it had any board games. Interesting to have anime. Wow. That's kind of neat. I mean, there's a lot of variety in game stores, it's a fortunate thing.
Yeah.
And I'm worried about how many of them are surviving the pandemic, because, again, like, it's going to be till summer that's not going to be done, probably, at least.
We just had a comic book / Funko Pop store open up in my town, and they're now selling Magic, and they're talking about starting to do board games.
If they do a bunch of stuff online, it might help. And again, like, if stores can open, people still visit them occasionally. Like,
well, they are open right now.
I mean, like, honestly speaking, if I had a good excuse to visit Portal, I might. spend some money, but I just don't have an excuse because, like, my
Well,
excuse
the
was
thing
usually
is-
when we did it.
Well, and also it's just like we're not really playing in person at the moment, so why
Nope.
buy a board game that is just going to sit there?
Yeah.
That's the only problem. Is it's like, you know, if we could meet up and do stuff, and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
then it makes more sense. Like me, I'm actually I've pretty much, other than I've gotten 2 new things recently, which was I finally have Cantan.
Cool.
And we got Ticket to Ride
Yeah.
because Hana really likes both of them, and well, Hana really liked Ticket to Ride, and I said Cantan I think she would like too. So you know, I can play them with, you know, Jay, her son Jay, and her and I.
You can have little family board game things. Yeah.
But the thing is, you know, for the most part, I'm not really buying right now because I have a crap ton collection and I'm not using any of them at the moment. Why do I need to add to it right now?
Agree.
Unfortunately, it's like
Unfortunately.
I miss playing. I would love to get some more tabletop at some point.
You know, it's just been like a thing of like, I think for me, I think one of the things that I was thinking about because Umber was pushing me to do like some tabletop sim recently, and I thought about it for a while, and I'm like, I think the reason I've been avoiding tabletop sim is it actually reminds me of the fact that I can't go and actually do tabletop with people. Honestly speaking.
Yeah, but it fills that void.
It makes me feel depressed, though. Honestly speaking, that's why I've been avoiding it a lot. It kind of makes me depressed. It can be fun, but afterwards, I'm kind of depressed.
I get it. It's just...
It's a stupid emotional thing.
Yeah. It's just that, you know, it's like...
We should do some more tabletop sim. I should really, like, you know, do that as my replacement. Yes, remember those games you used to do with people and have a chance to, like, go visit people and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And not stuck with the same people?
For me, it's just like, hey, at least it's some form of...
Thanks, Ollie. And hi, Ollie. Nice to see you stop by. Man. Yeah, we do have to do more tabletop sim, though. Alright, Waddles, you're going away.
Or is it waddling away?
Waddling away. Do we have Kickstarters? I haven't looked at Kickstarter. I've been bad at looking at Kickstarter lately. Do you have one this week or something?
I looked
Yeah.
a few.
Been a hot minute.
There was nothing huge. One that I thought was slightly interesting was Arcana Familia, an Stoic Cyberpunk RPG Expanded Edition.
Neat.
They're using blackjack as a base of character control.
That's... Oh, so it's basically pulling a... oh, God. The Western game that uses poker cards, but they're doing blackjack instead.
Yeah. It's 27 days ago. They have $1,677 out of their 6,100
Deadlands, thank you.
goal, and 38 backers so far.
Ooh.
That's
a
European.
good one.
The artwork is cool.
The Eldritch Century miniatures that Ollie posted is a really neat kind of one. Like again, like, ooh, Ollie, honestly speaking, I was talking about this with Joe. We should get you on sometime to talk about miniatures games and, like, you know, things like that, because we are bad with knowing about miniatures game, and I definitely know you're one of the people that I would be able to be like, oh hey, what do you know about miniatures games?
I also just downloaded Twilight Imperium 4th edition for Tabletop Sim.
That'll be something we may do at something. Because, like, you know, like, you're often doing it's the Warhammer painting and stuff too, and like doing Warhammer, and I'm like, I know basics about Warhammer, but it's the unfortunate thing about, like, I can't talk about it a little because I never played it and I never gotten into that style of miniatures game. The closest I've done is those, like, board game ones like Curse of Strahd or something, or Castle of Strahd that 5th edition put out, you know. Um, maybe one of these weeks we should have you on it and have you talk about the miniature scene, because that's definitely a scene I would like to talk about, because it's a big thing in tabletop and we don't have the expertise on it. Like, I can talk about a lot of these things, but cool.
I don't play those.
So yeah, are kind of familiar. That looks neat. Blackjack. Definitely throw that one out there. And the Eldritch Century 3D miniatures. I mean, 3D miniatures, and especially with the way that they've been doing 3D printings and stuff now, they've been getting some crazy stuff. Definitely, I'm always impressed with what they've been doing now with a lot of the miniature stuff. Just the developments in it, and again, especially with the 3D printing, it's a cool things, and it definitely wants to make me talk about it more. Definitely, most definitely. Cool. Yeah, I mean, the tabletop scene in Kickstarter has just exploded. And things like the miniatures with 3D printers are great. Because again, even if it's not a miniatures game, if you're just a game that uses a few miniatures, you can add them into your game because of 3D printing. And you can at least, even if you're not professionally putting them out, you can actually show them. And designing your own 3D printing stuff means it might be easier to, take to a plastic company that can do it in, big numbers. If you do get a big order, The evolution in gaming has been great, and 3D printing has helped a lot. It's kind of awesome. I think that's one of the reasons why I like throwing out things for Kickstarter, occasionally talking about them on the show here, because it's just such a cool and interesting evolution in everything. Do we want to hit up what we did this week in tabletop? I think I did 2 games, and that was it, because do records?
I did 1.
I think I did records at the beginning of the week. So tabletop, I think there's 3 games that we can talk about today, just for going over a little bit of our interesting adventures. We had Carrying Crown. I think I had Records of Evil. No, I didn't have Records of Evil because my computer... did I message you? I think I was going to text you about it. The computer had an issue. It was power supply.
Oh.
I got to get fixed, though.
No, you didn't.
I was going to message you about it, and I think I forgot to because it was late at night.
I'm surprised.
Apparently something got loose.
Ah.
Yeah. So on Monday, when it turned back on, and I'm like, oh my god, I got to get it fixed up, and I'm like, I can't bother you, you're at work, and also you're an hour away. So I managed to find a place that I could get into, and by the end of Monday, they're like, hey, we got it. Yeah, it was just a power supply issue. It unfortunately had done a little bit of a corruption in Windows 10 with the load up, because probably cut out when trying to load up and stuff like that, fix that issue. Things are working properly now, back under it, it was $70, which I'm like, that sucks, but that's, repair of things. And I'm like, I got it done in one day, and if it's just a power supply issue and not something more major, I'm so happy, I'm like, cool, everything's fixed up, great. But, so I missed Monday, and then Tuesday, we missed it because of other issues. So yeah, we had Carrying Crown, which wasn't great, honestly speaking, because I think I've discussed this heavily, which are very interesting discussions with Lightning and Umber, that, the differences between 5th edition, Pathfinder 1st edition, Pathfinder 2nd edition, all those kinds, and how, if you compare those games and stuff, and their team is not good at fighting golems, they're fighting golems. Also, the maps were pretty poorly designed. Schloss Karamak at the end of the second adventure of Carrying Crown, very poor design. They're very tight corridors, set up for a lot of surprise attacks, that kind of thing. And fighting a lot of things which were golems, which golems are slugfests, honestly speaking. They're immune to most magic, so you can't cast a lot of spells on them. And they're just slugfests then. Not great. Then we had Children of Wrath, which was very fun. I liked Children of Wrath's episode. I think we had some good moments in it. You met an angel pope. You had a beach adventure where a bunch of you went swimming, and then Maxwell had a very touching moment with Nim, and you're kind of going for the goodbyes next episode where you're parting ways, where you're heading to Tolarian Academy and he's heading off on his own adventures again. Till maybe you'll meet again someday. You never know.
I don't think that part should take too long.
No, it probably won't. Probably next time we'll be going off on the boat ride.
Yeah.
He's Schrodinger's Nim, Until you meet him again, you don't know if he's alive or dead. You put him in a box, you can't tell.
Nim's not gonna die anytime soon.
No.
He's long-lived, just like Max and I. But we might die.
This is designed in a very interesting storyline with him that fits in with, like, old lore and magic very well. Like, that kind of, like, you know... He's the kind of character that they could introduce, you know, that, like, you know... He would have been around for a lot of this stuff, but they just didn't talk about it.
He's a planeswalker.
Technically not anymore.
He used to be a planeswalker.
Yes. That's why I wasn't there for the battle with Phyrexia and the Apocalypse.
Yes.
He was off somewhere, and that's why he's like, I wasn't somewhere I could get involved with it. The Amidahati Kitsune named Ling. They might. That would be... Totally Ling would probably be Planeswalker, though, because... Or from the one place that is connected with Kamigawa. Because Kamigawa have Kitsune. They do. I was going to say something, and then my brain just went like...
Cat people.
Cat people. Yeah. Leonids. Which are different than Tabaxi.
Yes. My
nerd cred will continue to go up. Look, again... I shouted this out the other week when we were talking about Kaldheim a little bit. I am so anticipating when they do the Forgotten Realms set of Magic cards this spring. Or this summer, I mean. I want to see what the frick they do with it. Do they have Planeswalkers? Do they have legendary characters? What are they going to do? Because the thing is, there is planar magic in there. Now, granted, mostly it's time it takes to outer planes. But I'm curious because, technically speaking... the current one, the heavy metal one, yeah, I think so. The one's kind of got a little heavy metal to it, too.
Yeah.
The current one is like Vikings, Norse mythology, and a little heavy metal. Yeah, they're doing. And then they're going to do like a wizard school in spring. The spring release is like wizard school. So we don't know how much Harry Potter and how much it's going to be like something else. Because again, they start these designs long ago, and Harry Potter's had some ups and downs, but there's their Wizard School one. And then Magic the Gathering meets D&D, the opposite direction. I don't know how that's going to go. I'm really curious. Yeah, they've been doing a lot of smaller storyline ones lately, because I think there was a little burnout in the longer storylines. I wouldn't mind a couple of a set storyline, but I do like how they're kind of visiting small places and visiting new planes. They're bringing like old characters or visiting new planes. Like the old character visiting Kaldheim is definitely one that I'm like, who? it's a person that has like ghost powers that I'm like, yeah, you were interesting, but I don't know why you're the one that we're using. Do you see the Wizards has canonized the... I didn't see that. The combat wheelchair. Wizards, you do weird shit. Oh, Wizards. God, Wizards. Oh. Man. I mean, yes, it's a good thing for disability, and, like... The thing about, like, I feel... Huh. That's interesting. Huge trauma about a fan making it. I feel like it's interesting because, like, in a fantasy setting where there's a lot of very powerful regenerative magics, like, there are certain things that I feel like can be, like, disabilities and stuff, but I feel like, you know, like, also, like, 3rd edition had, like, you could get replacement, like, golem limbs. Like, you get, like, or something like that. For people that, like, lost limbs and stuff, or had, like, unworking limbs, you know? So, like, I can see they're coming up with something akin to, like, you know, doing something like that. Definitely. But again, like, it's all about, like, it's a fantasy magic world, so it's hard to, like, disabilities aren't erased, and, like, you know, yeah, and you can't, like, cure everything. There are certain things that can be cured, certain things that can't be. And also, a lot of those cure magics are high level. So it's like your general peasant that might have some kind of disability, that might have lost a limb, they're probably not getting it replaced. And that's a thing that, like, I think is not brought in a lot, because the fantasy world has to be more like our own world, you know? And, like, yes, your rich people could probably pay for, like, you know, I lost a limb, I can get it regrown with a regeneration spell. Your average peasant probably not going to get that, even if they think about saving that up, because you can't cure certain things too. And, like, there's a lot of mental afflictions and stuff like that that you can't cure. And even some physical disabilities that would be very hard to deal with too. And so it's like this interesting mixed bag of, like, where does the magic replace the science that we might have for fixing certain things, and where does the level of fixing stuff not exist? And that's, like, an interesting discussion I find. I mean, the combat wheelchair sounds like a kind of cool thing to have too. Like, I think, like, I don't mind it because it's sort of like, it's like if you have an adventurer that loses a limb or something, like loses a leg, and maybe, like, wants to have something, or loses both their legs, what do? I think I was in a joke game where, you know, my DM played it for a little bit of a joke and a little bit of an in-joke because half of our players had been in an adventure where dwarf NPC lost their legs. So, you know, tragic in that adventure, the dwarf NPC lost their legs, killing a dragon. The dragon fell on him and crushed his legs. You know, that's an interesting storyline. It makes for, like, you know, like, oh, you know, he had this epic quest that he ended up like this. And, you know, the joke of, like, you know, it was a dwarf in a wheelchair that, you know, had an axe that was there. It was meh, you know, and, you know, it's hanging back to another game. But the idea of having, like, an adventurer in a wheelchair or something that's going into fights or something isn't necessarily bad. Yeah, you know, there's levels of things, you know, and storylines of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Pathfinder has some pretty crazy stuff that you can have too. Pathfinder with its character building and options are very good on that. I'm just interested to see more of, you know, it's interesting that they then canonized it then, I guess. There were some other things that I heard were canonized recently that I was like, that's interesting, people canonized, that were, like, kind of fan stuff, but thanks, Wizards. I mean, like, going for directions like that isn't bad. Wizards makes weird choices so much. I don't understand. I think they make better choices on their D&D side than they do on their Magic side. Honestly speaking. Very honestly speaking.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Their Magic side, they make terrible choices. Cough,
Magic
cough, secret layers.
Yeah,
Cough.
they are a little bit more greedy on
the Magic side. Oh yeah, when they figured out that they have a cash cow and secret layers and stuff where there can be, like, premium cards that are sold very limitedly, and also you technically aren't going to get them for, like, a couple of months, so you can't get a return because it's past that return date. And if they're got printing errors, which apparently they sometimes have had, too bad, you're screwed. Also, apparently, their foiling, when they do the foil ones, their foil quality is worse than normal foil. Which I'm sure you're aware how much normal foil Magic cards curl.
Yeah.
Worse. Anyway, hey. I think that's pretty much the end of our show now. Unless someone in chat has some topics they want to bring up. Oh yeah, Pokemon's doing really good right now. That's another one that I would like to find someone that knows a lot about the Pokemon card game, because honestly, that's been blowing up a lot. Like, Magic is still pretty big, but I feel like it's been suffering from some of the choices and stuff right now. I have Pokemon cards from the OG one. They probably are going to be valuable. You know, I think it's probably, like, the second or third printing of it, which I looked into that. I think I have, like, a second, third printing of, like, you know, the original Charizard, too. Yeah, I did, like, the first, like, couple of Pokemon cards, sets. A couple things from that. But, yeah. No, I'd love to find someone that would know a little bit more about the Pokemon card game, and I could talk to them about that, too, you know. They've reprinted the Pokemon, yeah. That's what they do. They reprint stuff from OG stuff. Only Magic has that kind of, like, we'll never reprint some of these things, you know?
Yeah.
When someone buys me a Pokemon thing, because I don't play the Pokemon card game anymore. Honestly, I wouldn't know the new rules for it, because I think they've evolved the rules. It's like, if I wanted to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh, which I think isn't quite dead but pretty dead, is I used to know someone that played it. He unfortunately passed away. Our joint friend Colin, he knew about Yu-Gi-Oh. He played it for a good while. I could probably pull him in and like talk to him about that kind of things, but he's gone. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh went a lot of crazy routes. I was talking to someone else about it too at one point in time. But I'd love to get some people on that could talk about some of these other like games that have evolved and are still out there. But like my expertise is not great for them, and neither is your Joe. We have a good expertise that we can talk about, like general board games. We can talk about role-playing games pretty well, you know. And we have some people that we would know that we can contact about certain like other like expanded parts of board games. And then Magic, I know that's a good chunk of the industry, but not all of it. The industry's just evolved heavily. But yeah, the rules are way different. Yu-Gi-Oh's rules have changed. Even like, I have to be honest, if I hadn't been around for Magic rules change, Magic rules have changed a lot since the beginning, since I started playing.
Very true.
So, board game, the games evolve, especially these ongoing ones, the collectible card games, certainly. Anyway.
Well, they kind of have to.
I should chat with a bunch of you people at some point in time. Definitely. You know, Ollie, we should chat, you know, some more. Maybe hang out at some point in time. Well, I'll talk probably more with Lightning and Funny One at some point in time about all this stuff, but I can't have us go on too late. We've had some interesting topics here. We've had like chat throw us some good topics to chat about stuff, and we've gotten some interesting discussions today. But I know that we usually have a time schedule, and I do want to stream some more later on this afternoon. So I do want to run out to the store because I keep putting it off.
I recommend driving.
I will probably drive because the store's nowhere near close. And I got to do that at some point. I
know where you live and where the stores are.
Yes. I have to check your magical items. I checked Momo's. And Momo didn't buy anything over 6,000, so it was perfectly fine. But anyway, let's get us going. Joe, if you want to give any kind of outro on stuff, I guess give support for Thursdays.
I'll see everyone on Thursday.
Yep. So yeah, RPG shows Thursday, 8 p.m. EST. Children of Wrath, D&D meets Magic the Gathering. Mondays, 1 p.m. That's the Lawful Evil D&D game, Records of Evil. That'll be fun. Tuesdays at 2, Vampire the Masquerade. I'll probably be doing more video game streams. Probably more Stardew. I might do some of the other games that I have, but I've been really enjoying Stardew Valley. It's just nice, relaxing time. Also, my OCD-ness for like collecting and doing things, it fills that role a lot.
No Stardew for you.
I am very bad at OCD of collections and stuff and things like that, and it fills me with things. Yes, evil items. And multiplayer Stardew Valley I should do sometime too. I'll figure that out. But anyway, for now, thanks everyone who joined us in chat. Thanks for everyone who just hung around with us. We'll be back next week for more topics and talking about stuff. There'll be plenty of new tabletop stuff to talk about. And, as usual, thank you, Joe, for joining me.
Yep.
Always fun. And until that next time, remember to check us out. Message us with any kind of questions and stuff. And, see you next time. Farewell, everybody. Thanks you for joining again.